The Starry Night, a sleep monologue by Vincent van Gogh. I painted it in June, from a small room, with a window that faced east, and iron bars that crossed the glass. Beyond those bars, the most extraordinary sky I had ever seen. I would lie awake at night and watch it, long before I ever touched a brush to canvas. Just watching. The way the stars seemed to breathe. The way the darkness was never truly dark, always moving, always alive with colour, that most people simply never stop long enough to see. The painting itself came from memory, from imagination. I wasn't standing beneath that sky when I made it. I was inside, in a quiet room, carrying the sky within me and trying to put it somewhere. It would last. That is what painting is sometimes. Not recording what you see, but releasing what you cannot stop feeling. People think the night is empty. It isn't. The night is full, fuller than the day. In many ways, the day demands your attention, pulls you in every direction at once. But the night asks nothing of you. It simply holds you. I used cobalt, Prussian blue, a little white, worked in thick, heavier than most painters would dare. I wanted you to feel the weight of the sky, not just see it, feel it, pressing down gently, the way a heavy blanket settles over you when you are tired. The stars are not dots in my painting, they are suns, each one surrounded by its own light, its own warmth, turning slowly in the dark. The village below is sleeping. I made sure of that. Every window dark, every door closed. The church spire reaches up, the only thing still straining toward the sky, the way we sometimes do, even in our quietest moments. But the houses are at rest, and that is where I wanted you to feel yourself. Down there, safe, small, but safe. Tucked beneath all of that magnificent, swirling, breathing sky. The cypress tree troubled some people. They said it was too dark, too severe. But a cypress tree at night is not a mournful thing. Not to me. It is a living thing, rooted deep, reaching high, perfectly still, and perfectly certain of itself. I envied it, that certainty. I was not always certain of very much, but in those hours of painting, when the room was quiet and the sky was doing what only the sky knows how to do, I felt something close to peace. I think that is what I most wanted to give you. Not a painting, exactly. More of a place, somewhere you could return to when the day had been too long, or too loud, or too much. A sky that is always moving, so that you don't have to. Stars that are always burning, so that you can rest. Close your eyes now. The village is sleeping. The cypress is still. And the stars are turning slowly overhead, the way they were turning that night in June, and the night before that, and every night, long before either of us were here to notice. You are safe beneath them. I had come to Saint-Rémy of my own will. After everything that had happened in Arles, the arguments, the darkness that had crept into me, the things I had done that I could not explain, I was tired in a way that sleep alone cannot fix. So I walked through the doors of Saint-Paul-de-Mausole, and I asked them to take care of me for a while. It was a former monastery, old stone walls, long quiet corridors, a garden with irises and lilacs that I painted almost immediately because I needed something to do with my hands. They gave me 2 rooms, a bedroom and a studio. The bedroom had greenish-grey paper on the walls, 2 curtains the colour of the sea, with a design of very pale roses, brightened with touches of blood red. I found it rather beautiful. Simple things can be beautiful when you have learned not to take them for granted. My doctor there was a humane and caring man. The nuns who looked after us were kind. I was allowed to paint, to read, to withdraw into my own room when I needed to. For a man who had been called Le Fou Rou, the crazy redhead, by the people of Arles, who had petitioned to have me removed from my own home. That kindness meant more than I can say. At first, I was confined to the grounds, so I painted what I could see: the garden, the irises, the hospital corridors, the wheat field I could see from my window, enclosed by a wall, with the mountains of the Alpilles beyond. I wrote to my brother Theo. Through the iron-barred window, I see a square field of wheat in an enclosure, above which I see the morning sun rising in all its glory. Even a barred window can frame something magnificent if you are willing to look. Later, when I had shown them I was stable, they allowed me to leave the grounds, with an attendant always, but still, to walk among the olive groves, the cypress trees, the limestone mountains of Provence. That was everything. I told my sister Wilhelmine in a letter that night was more colourful than day, that stars were not simply white dots on black, but yellow, pink, green, alive with colour that most people never stopped long enough to see. She probably thought I was being poetic. I was being literal. One morning, very early, long before sunrise, I lay awake and looked out my window, and there was the morning star, looking very big. I carried that image inside me for days. Researchers have since determined that what I saw that morning was Venus, nearly as bright as it ever gets, hanging over the hills of Provence in the dark. That is the brightest light in my painting, just to the right of the cypress tree. Not a star at all, a planet, burning steadily, while everything around it swirled. The village in the painting does not exist. It came from imagination, perhaps from sketches I had made of Saint-Rémy, perhaps from memories of the Netherlands where I grew up. The church spire resembles the churches of Holland, not the churches of France. I was painting something true, without painting something real. There is a difference. During this time, I painted during bursts of energy that alternated with moods of despair. That is the honest truth of it. There were days when the brush felt like an extension of my hand, when everything I saw burned with colour and meaning, when I could not paint fast enough to keep up with what I felt. And there were other days when I could not get out of bed, when the darkness came back and the room felt very small, and the barred window felt less like a frame and more like a cage. But painting provided solace. It gave meaning. When I was able to resume after the difficult periods, I told Theo, it doesn't stop one from carrying on one's trade as painter, as if nothing had gone wrong. I want you to understand something about that painting. It is not a record of a night sky. It is not even really a painting of a place. It is what it feels like to lie awake at 3 a.m. and look up at something so vast and so indifferent and so breathtakingly beautiful that for a moment all of your own trouble feels very small. The swirling sky. I did not invent that movement. I simply saw it. When you look long enough at anything, it begins to move. The clouds turn, the light shifts, even the stars, if you watch them long enough without blinking, seem to pulse, to breathe, to rotate slowly around some invisible center. I painted what I actually saw. I just painted it honestly. Theo kept the painting. He sent it to Paris after I left Saint-Rémy, and there it stayed for many years, passing from hand to hand, not particularly celebrated, not particularly known. It was not until 1941, more than 50 years after I painted it, that the Museum of Modern Art in New York acquired it. I was already gone by then, long gone. But the painting was just beginning. I think about that sometimes, how little I knew. Standing in that small room with greenish-grey walls, the mistral wind outside, the irises in the garden below, Theo's letters on the table. How little I knew what that canvas would become, what it would mean to people I would never meet, in a world I could not have imagined, in a city I never visited, on a wall I never saw. But perhaps that is the nature of making something. You put everything you feel into it, and then you let it go, and it becomes something else entirely, something that belongs, not to you, but to whoever needs it most. Tonight, perhaps that is you. Perhaps you have had a long day. Perhaps the world has felt too loud, or too uncertain, or too much. I understand that. I understood it very well. So let the sky do what it does. Let it turn and breathe and swirl with all that blue, all that gold, all that impossible, restless, tender light. The village is sleeping. The cypress is still. Venus is rising in the east, bright and steady, the way it was rising that June morning when I lay in a quiet room and looked out through iron bars and felt, for just a moment, at peace. You are safe beneath that sky. Rest now.